My name is Abraham, and I am here to do the reading today.
Hello, and this is Imelda, and I'm reading the Society News for Friday, the 16th of February 2018. On Tuesday, Laura will be attending the Our Place drop-in session, which is held at the West Wight Sports and Community Centre in Mower Place, Freshwater, between 10 and 12:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 20th of February. She will have information about the society, the clubs and activities available, as well as demonstrations of some low vision aids available. Come along and say hello and enjoy a free cup of tea or coffee. The dolphins are swimming on Tuesday the 20th of February in Ryde at the waterside pool. The pool is closed to the public while the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the dolphins, please call the society first to notify us of your swimming ability. The weekly coffee morning on Wednesday will be held at Millbrook House, Wednesday the 21st of February. The coffee mornings are not just for blind and partially sighted people. Anybody can come along and have a cup of coffee or tea as well as a piece of cake. There's also bowling at LA Bowl on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Thursday, the Thursday Social Group are meeting on Tuesday the 22nd of February at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 until 2. You can knit or just have a chat, and then later in the afternoon volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics. On Friday, the Striders group will be meeting Friday the 23rd, walking from Millbrook House to the Cedars at Wootton. The group will leave Millbrook House at 10 a.m. with a table booked for lunch at the Cedars for 12:15 p.m. Please note there is no minibus. Southern Vexit Route 9 runs every 10 minutes to Newport or Ryde. And on Sunday the 25th at Westridge Golf Centre there will be an hour of golf 10:30 onwards. I think you need to phone in if you're coming to that. Right, any other news? Yes. The Isle of Wight Fellowship meeting will be held at Bethany Evangelical Church, Union Street, Newport, on Saturday the 24th of February at 3 p.m. The speaker this month is Mr. Roy Moore, and there will be hymns, a quiz, story reading, and a short Christian message followed by tea. A collection is taken from which donations are made to the Torch Trust for the Blind. Hymn books and scripture are available in large print and braille. For further details, please contact Jackie Moore on 520797. Coming up in the Wednesday social group, Wednesday the 28th of February, will feature music from local band Slant VA. Slant VA sing traditional Irish and Scottish songs, play dances, reels and jigs, as well as an unusual blend of modern songs that take their fancy, including Lindisfarne, Bob Dylan, Nancy Griffiths and the Pogues. This group is open to non-members, but please register your interest in advance. We've been contacted by National Rail with information about their disabled persons rail card. Key benefits of the card include a saving of a third of most rail fares for you and a friend, with the card costing just £20 a year. Further information is available online at disabled-railcard.co.uk or by calling 0203 102 9085. We also have some information leaflets at the Society. At the end of the Talking News this week, we've included the audio recording of our latest newsletter. We've been asked by a few members what the labels are on the front of the Talking News wallets. They are an instruction to the post office to not stick a free postage label on the front of the wallet, as this makes it difficult to then turn the address label. Not all post offices stick them on there, but some do.
Scaffolding news. Please find below a list of known footway obstructions for works including scaffolding or holding. We are unable to include end dates as many are extended on a week-by-week basis. Also included are tablets and chairs permits that have been issued in the past week. Bay and Ventnor area. There is currently scaffolding at 70 High Street, Shanklin, Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown, 41 and 43A, High Street, Shanklin, 48 North Street, Ventnor. There are currently hoardings at Wight City, Culver Parade, Sandown, 1 Melville Street, Sandown. New scaffolding is due up at First Aid Hut, Esplanade, Ventnor, due up on 2nd of March 2018. There are currently skips at 1 Melville Street, Sandown. Cowes area. There is currently scaffolding at Red Squirrel Shop and Bella, 73 and 74 High Street, Cowes. Max Atkin Museum, 83 High Street, Cowes. 9 Bath Road, Cowes. There are currently hoardings at 70 to 73 Arctic Road, Cowes. 93 High Street, Cowes. New scaffolding is due up at Grace's Bakery, High Street, Cowes, due up on 26th February 2018. There are currently skips at 6 Thetis Road, Cowes. New skips are due at 38 St Andrew Street, Cowes, due on the 28th of February 2018. Newport area. There is currently scaffolding at 38 Key Street, Newport, 18 Lugley Street, Newport, Domino's, 41 St James's Street, Newport, on Bowling Green Lane, Bronstone House, Lugley Street, Newport, 3 and 4 Holyrood Street, Newport, former BHS store, Pyle Street, Newport, 45 Street, Newport, 75 Elm Grove, Newport, Elm Grove, Newport, St Thomas Church, St Thomas Square, Newport, Readers, 33 South Street, Newport, Albany Lodge, Lugley Street, Newport. There are currently hoardings at Slug and Lettuce, ex Yates, High Street, Newport, Cherry Picker. New scaffolding is due at The Works, St James's Square, Newport, due up on the 26th of February 2018. The Waverley, St Clatterford Road, Newport, due up on the 1st of March 2018. There are currently skips at former BHS store, Pyle Street, Newport, 68 Upper St James Street, Newport. Ride area. There is currently scaffolding at the Yarbridge, 99 New Road, Brading, The Star Inn, High Street Ride, 11 Well Street Ride, Corner House, Church Street Seaview, ABRI, Madeira Road, Seaview, 51 to 52 High Street Ride, Royal Victoria Arcade, Union Street Ride. New scaffolding is due up at 41 to 42 High Street Ride, due up on the 7th of May 2018. There are currently skips at Slipway, High Street Seaview, Holly Cross Church, Pitts Lane, Binstead, Etharin, Newlands, St Helens. West Wight area. There is currently scaffolding at Bryston, Viaduct, Military Road, Bryston. There are currently skips at Florence, High Street, Yarmouth. This week's In Touch. In Touch this week's episode, Peter Wight is joined by television producer Kevin Mulhern, teacher Sean Randall and comedian Chris McCausland to discuss the issues facing blind men around the subject of masculinity. The idea was prompted by an email from listener James Bird. Producers Cheryl Gabriel and Peter Wight.
And now we go over to the Isle of Wight County Press for Friday the 16th of February, and the headlines are two of them. First of all, summer holes set to be cut, and secondly, Ferry's dancing man man up for awards. Pupils unhappy at plan to shave week off break. Summer holes set to be cut. It might not be what pupils want, but island school kids set to get a shorter summer holiday. Changes to school holidays have long been spoken about, with many who work in the tourism sector favouring a switch away from the traditional 6-week break. Now the Isle of Wight Council has come up with a plan to shave a week off the summer and instead have a 2-week autumn term break. More than 1,800 people responded to the consultation, with the majority favouring the change. However, 68% of the pupils who took part in the consultation wanted no change, with 81% voting against a 2-week autumn break. Parents also responded to the news on social media, criticising the decision to move a week from the warmer summer holidays to when the weather is colder, darker, and more venues are closed. Sharon Linfield wrote on the County Press Facebook page, "Unfortunately, they will probably change it, no matter what public opinion is, as usual. Just leave the holidays as they are. Why would you want 2 weeks off in October when it's usually starting to get wet and cold? Let's just enjoy the 6 sunny weeks as we always have." While Julia Stevens said, "I voted and was against the proposed idea, suggested adding a week to May, half a term, as weather is better, and also changing the time of 6-week summer holiday to be the same as Scotland. Disappointed." The Isle of Wight Council sets a school year for voluntary, controlled and community schools. Other schools, such as academies, can set their own school year. While it is advised that all schools follow the council's format, parents with children at different schools were unhappy with the prospects of disjointed school holidays. Cabinet member for Children's Services, Councillor Paul Brading, said, "The option on the table reflects the majority of responses to our thorough and well participated in public consultation and shows we are listening to stakeholders. Term times are considered annually and will continue to be reviewed in the future. Teaching body the National Education Union said proposals could lose teaching days and impact teacher recruitment. The Isle of Wight branch secretary Dominic Cohen said, "We recognise the current long summer term is tiring for children, families and school staff. It is our view that this could be addressed with a 2-week break in the autumn, no half-term break in the summer during the exam season, and a 6-week summer break." The proposal is due to go before an extraordinary meeting of the Council's Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Children's Services on March the 8th, and then it will go to Cabinet.
Ferry's dancing man up for award. A dancing man who puts a smile on people's faces as they arrive and leave the island has been nominated for a tourism award. Red Funnel's Jim O'Reilly uses dance moves to direct cars on and off the ferries. If Jim has entertained you, now is the chance to say thank you by choosing him as your Visit England tourism superstar. Cowes man Jim, 53, has made it through to the final stage of the national competition after being nominated by Visit IW. He said, "My approach is to give everyone a warm welcome when they arrive and then bid them a fond farewell. I like to help finish their holiday with a smile and hope they have a great time in between as well. I am out here having fun, and if you are too, that's fantastic. Vote for me by all means, as long as you're enjoying it." Murray Carter, Customer Services Director at Red Funnel, said, "We are absolutely thrilled by Jim's nomination. Jim completely embodies everything this award stands for, and he is a wonderful ambassador for the IW. I hope everyone who has ever found themselves smiling because of Jim will take a moment and vote." Jim admits that when he started dancing, his colleagues weren't sure what to think. But there is an additional benefit for Jim, as he suffers from arthritis and had a hip replacement at 45. But the dancing helps keep his body active. The competition, organised by the Daily Mirror, recognises the dedication and passion of those working on the tourism industry and is awarded to an individual who goes above and beyond to ensure visitors have an unforgettable experience. You can vote for Jim and be entered into a holiday prize draw at www.mirror.co.uk/Ireland/Tourism Superstar. Dash in between tourism and superstar. -11992093. Voting ends at midnight on March the 20th, and the winner will be announced on March the 24th.
Isle of Wight's most disabled targeted in cuts. The island's most disabled people have pleaded with the Isle of Wight Council to drop plans for extra care home charges, which they say would have a devastating impact on their lives. People who responded to the council's consultation said they would be forced into sheltered accommodation if the charges were introduced, as they could no longer afford to live at home. Currently, higher and enhanced disability benefit rates paid to those who are most in need are not taken into account when people are means tested for home care services. If the plans are approved, they would be. It could affect around 770 people who receive the higher rate of attendance allowance, disability living allowance, and personal independent payments. They could be charged an extra £27.45 a week or £1,427 a year, although the council said not everyone in receipt of the higher rate would have to pay, and a £100,000 hardship fund would be made available. One woman said her husband would no longer be able to afford a day care, and another said her mother, who had dementia, would be unsafe at night. Another woman said she would be left with just £7 a week after paying her bills. The 498 people who responded to the consultation overwhelmingly urged the council not to press ahead with the plans, which were due to go before the council yesterday, Thursday. Members of the Council's Scrutiny Committee also urged the Cabinet to throw the proposals out. Social Care Cabinet member Councillor Claire Mosdale said she had considered resigning over the issue, but was doing too much good work to quit. It does not sit right with me. I had a whole week worrying about it, but I am doing too much good, she said. We need to ensure we make these savings. This is already being done by lots of other councils. Disabled people who would be affected by the changes attended the meeting with John Phillips from disability charity John's Club. He said, "Why is so much being cut from the budget for people with learning difficulties and learning disabilities?" The move would raise an extra £934,440 for the council in a full year.
Preventing Tooth Decay in Children by Megan Baines. Sugary diets and a fear of the dentists are causing young children to suffer tooth decay before they start school. To combat this, the Mall Dental Practice, Newport, will visit nurseries and preschools to teach children about oral hygiene. The pilot project is part of a partnership with NHS England to increase the numbers of toddlers who see a dentist and receive necessary treatment. A team from the practice will visit island nurseries and preschools to offer dental examination. For those who require follow-up treatment, the children will be able to visit the mall for further care. Dentist Naomi Portelli and dental therapists Liz Corbett and Olivia Young will be working on the scheme alongside 2 dental nurses. All the children will be given a small goodie bag with a toothbrush, 2-minute timer stickers, brushing chart, NHS information leaflet, and some promotions for the Island Sugar Smart campaign. Liz said, "The number one reason children have general anaesthetic is because they are having teeth extracted." Naomi said sugary diets often went hand in hand with a fear of the dentist, with many parents not realising they should bring their children to the dentist regularly. If the parents are dental phobic, children are very perceptive and will pick up on that. Liz said it's more than just teeth. Parents think because milk teeth aren't permanent, it doesn't matter. But children have them until they are 12. It is about their social well-being. It can really affect their confidence, eating and speech. The NHS aims to get children visiting the dentist at least once before they turn 1. Although children may not have teeth, preventative work can be done to stop tooth decay in under 5s.
Cash plea for Fixed Link study turned down. Directors of Fixed Link company Able Connections met the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce to ask for funding for a viability study into a cross-Solent tunnel, but the Chamber turned them down. Carl Feeney and Tim Cooper presented proposals for a Fixed Link study and said it would cost around £150,000. Mr. Cooper said, "Once a study has been achieved, we will know whether the proposed Fixed Link scheme is financially viable or not. If it is, we can proceed to the next stage of work. If it is not, the island will be able to look to the future using ferry transport only to cross the Solent." Mr. Feeney said, "Our reasoning is to raise funds for the viability study through a respected institution such as the Isle of Wight Chamber of Commerce. We are hoping for the Chamber to firstly assist sponsorship investing in the study and secondly become involved as an impartial participant to oversee the study within a steering group." But outgoing Chamber Chief Executive Kevin Smith told the county press, "The Chamber will not be making any financial contribution to the survey. The Chamber made no offer of support or any type of commitment for or against their proposals." Carl Feeney presented to the Chamber's main board and made the case for a viability study into a fixed link. "We will be circulating further information about the feasibility study to members."
Labour slams proposed 6% council tax rise. Plans to increase council tax by nearly 6% have been slammed by Labour. The budget proposals will see the average Band C taxpayer pay £75 more a year from April 2018 and Band D taxpayers around £100. As reported, 3% of the council tax rise will go towards funding adult social care, and the rest will be used to fund other services, including a pay rise for council staff. Labour Vice Chair Deb Gardner said, "The government has taken a decision to refuse to properly fund vital local services and instead impose a cowardly stealth tax on island residents through an almost 6% council tax increase. The council plans to enforce people to pay more council tax and get fewer services in return. In what world is that fair or acceptable?" Labour welcomed £500,000 additional funding for adult social care, but said there was still a huge funding shortfall in the service. Councillor leader, Councillor Dave Stewart said, "Tough decisions have had to be made in this budget, but it is a balanced budget. It is a lawful budget and one that will protect and improve services while allowing us to invest in our island's future."
Few listen to plans for the Isle of Wight. Public meetings on the Isle of Wight Council's multi-million pound regeneration plans were attended by fewer than 200 people. As reported, the council hopes the programme will deliver 12,000 jobs, 1,200 new homes and £15 million in additional council tax, income and business rates over the next decade. 11 sites have been earmarked for redevelopment, including Newport Harbour, Ryde Esplanade, the industrial estate at Nicholson Road Ryde, the former Camp Hill Prison and Kingston Marine Park, East Cowes. Speaking at the latest Policy and Scrutiny Committee for Regeneration, Houses, Planning and Environment, Liberal Democrat Councillor Andrew Garrett asked why so few people had turned up. The level of engagement is disappointing. What do you think is behind that? A lack of an awareness they were on? A lack of interest in the issues? Or a lack of confidence? Because people think the council never does anything, and what's the point? He asked Regeneration Director Chris Ashman. He also asked what the Regeneration's team £3.3 million budget had been spent on. Mr. Ashman replied, "Some people do think it's a superficial exercise, and whatever comes from it may not translate into action. We can only disprove that by achieving things." Speaking after the meeting, he said the team had only spent around £300,000 of the £2.3 million budget. A large portion of the cash had been spent on the salaries of Mr. Ashman, £98,096, and Deputy Director Raniera O'Donnell, £77,110, who were appointed just over a year ago. The remainder had largely been spent on public consultations and buying in technological expertise to draw up business case options.
Do you fancy running a zoo? Could this be the best job in the world? If you fancy spending your days with tigers, meerkats and monkeys, running the Isle of Wight Zoo could be for you. A chief executive is being sought to run the much-loved Sandown attraction. The owner and current chief executive, Charlotte Corney, is taking a step back from day-to-day management to focus on specialist projects such as conservation and animal welfare. The zoo was taken over by the Corney family in the 1970s, and Charlotte's father, Jack, was famed for walking the tigers along the beach. Since the formation of the zoo's Wild Heart Trust charity, Charlotte said that the attraction is needed to recruit someone with a background in the charitable sector. She said, "In April last year, I formed the trust and the zoo became part of the trust. A whole new era has opened up. I have been running operations at the zoo since 2007, and obviously my father before me did too. We are looking for somebody to make sure we have a sustainable platform to work from. I have done my best at starting it off, but we are looking for someone who has expertise in the charitable sector and also someone who can make things work commercially." She added, "It is a job that requires resilience, energy, and a real compassion for the cause. It is really exciting opportunity." The closing date for applications is March the 4th.
And a historic inn goes on the market. One of the most traditional and unspoiled pubs on the island, the Bonchurch Inn, is up for sale. The Bezossi family has run the pub since 1984 and it quickly became renowned for the Italian cuisine, including the popular life-changing lasagna created by landlord Nino. Nino died aged 88 in 2016, leaving wife Gillian and children Adrian and Victoria at the helm. But the family has decided the time is now right to move on. Gillian said, "We've been here a really long time and we feel we have done our stint. We've loved it, but it's 7 days a week. I want to retire and Adrian and Victoria want to go their own ways. We want to find a buyer who would cherish what is here, as Bonchurch is a lovely place. But for now it is business as usual and we're very much open." The inn started life as the tap of the Bonchurch Family Hostel. A lease was granted in 1840 and the name Bonchurch Inn appeared in Kelly's directory of 1924-5. Set around a Dickensian-style courtyard, little has changed over the years, and it still retains its old-world appeal. The Bonchurch Inn could be yours for £950,000. The site consists of 2 substantial buildings, which make up the pub, restaurant with large courtyard, and gazebo garden with 2 self-contained flats. And this property is on the market through O1 estate agents in Ventnor.
Mental Health Blueprint. A new draft blueprint for improving mental health on the Isle of Wight has been published. It focuses on preventing mental ill health, reducing stigma and personalising services. The plan has been put together by the Isle of Wight Clinical Commissioning Group, CCG, the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, and the Isle of Wight Council. Mental health services were rated inadequate following the Care Quality Commission's inspection last year, and serious concerns were raised about safety. To tackle problems, health bosses plan to build a network of modern services which work together to focus on early intervention and promote recovery. It is estimated almost 2,000 islanders live with dementia, and the island has a higher rate of diagnosed mental illness than the mainland, 1.1% of the population compared to national average 0.9%. Michelle Legg, chairman of the Isle of Wight CCG, said, "We know we need to support people who have improved mental health, and we can and must do better for everyone who needs more specialist help at times in their lives when they are vulnerable. We have listened to people about what is important to them in order to develop this so far, but we need to test this out and hear from the residents before we can finalise our plan. Is the vision right? Have we missed anything? We need to hear from you so that we can be confident we are making the right plans."
Search still on for missing woman. An appeal has been launched to find Joanna Orpin, who went missing from her ride home on Tuesday morning. Police believe she bought cigarettes and a lighter at the Premier Store, Marlborough Road, at 7:20 a.m. Her black Audi was found parked at Culver Down, Viewport car park at around 10 a.m. Her family have not heard from her and are growing increasingly concerned. She is described as white, 5'9" tall, with a slim build, long blonde hair and brown eyes. She may be wearing a bright pink top and black leggings. DCI Nick Heelan said, I'd like to thank our colleagues from the UK Coast Guard, Wight SAR and our specialist teams, including the Marine Unit, who have helped us continue our searches in wet and windy conditions. We will continue to extend our searches over the coming days if Joanna is not found. We remained concerned for her welfare and are providing support for her family at this time. If you saw Joanna in the Culver Down, Sandown or Bembridge areas, we need to hear from you as soon as possible. Anyone with information can call 101, quoting 441800588184, or I'm sure just phone 101.
School Cleans Up Thanks to CP by Emily Pierce. Unsightly litter. Caught in the footpath fence bordering Christ the King College, Newport, has prompted complaints from residents. Martin and Coraline Henson, who live in the nearby Priory Farm Lane, said the school has promised but failed to clear the rubbish until the county press stepped in. 2 days after an inquiry from the county press, the Hensons received a call saying the litter would be cleared by the end of this week. Martin said, "This has been an annoyance for the residents for more than 4 years. It is an eyesore for all footpath users and gives an extremely poor view of the school. We had a meeting at the school last Wednesday and they said they would clear it over the half-term break. They have already cleared one of the worst stretches. I think it was because the county press gave them a call. We were so fed up, we told them we would go to the county press about it. We had really had enough." Christ the King said it had been in contact with the Hensons and declined to comment further.
Paralympic team bid by Rebecca. Sheer determination to continue horse riding despite suffering serious spinal injuries could lead to the Paralympics for Rebecca Hales. Rebecca, 35 of Ryde, is training to such a high standard she's gained her classification for para-dressage and will be competing for a place on the Paralympic first team in April. She's also aiming to complete an aeroplane wing walk for charity. Rebecca joined the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service as a trainee paramedic in 2004, but medically retired in 2010 following an accident at work. Her life changed forever when she tried to pull out an ambulance ramp, a routine practice, but it was jammed. The jarring caused her such serious spinal injury she needed several procedures, including one that went wrong and caused further problems, compounded by a delay in operating. Rebecca claimed negligence and went to tribunal, but the National Health Service admitted liability and offered compensation before it came to court. Several years on, she is permanently disabled with a degenerational spiral condition. On a good day, she can potter unaided or walk free, as she describes it, but usually she is confined to her wheelchair or crutches. When walking, she is not allowed to twist, bend or lift, as she is at risk of paralysis if she overdoes it, making it all the more remarkable she is able to ride her horses. My consultants said I'm allowed to ride, and to me it's the only thing I've got left. I can still do. I take certain painkillers before and after, but it helps my core muscles and massively lifts my mood. Physically, I am exhausted, but I have a choice to accept it and do nothing, or deal with it and do the best I can. I like to keep challenging myself, not sit and get stale. My horse, Erin, show-named Erendoa, is of Grand Prix standard and has already been competing for a few years, so he's ready for 2020. Rebecca is also training the much younger Noodles, show name Hazard, for 2024. She has a supportive team behind her, including partner Richard Price, parents Angela and Tony Hales, and trainer Anita Nichols, who is based on the island and is the French national champion. I'm privileged to train under her, Rebecca said. I absolutely love it. I live to train. Anita treats me no different to any other client. She works me hard and I like that. Rebecca, a mother of 2, is looking forward to her wing walk. I feel I can do it. I'm not allowed to do a skydive, but this came up and it seems right. She's fundraising for Chrysalis Uganda, helping women in Uganda start their own businesses and gain some independence. Donations can be made on the Just Giving website by searching for Rebecca's name. And with that, with all good wishes for Rebecca, it is the end of the first part of the County Press today. And so it's goodbye from Imelda and have a lovely weekend.
And it's goodbye from Abraham, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Hello, we're now going to read the second half of the County Press, and I'm Jan.
And I'm Stephen, and we'll be starting off with some letters to the editor.
Right, the first letter we have is from Penelope Walford from Benbridge. The article, "No Realistic Prospect of a University on the Isle of Wight," says Council Boss. That was in the County Press of the 7th of the 2nd, 18. Got me thinking how the island would be the perfect. 1. Subjects: marine conservation, paleontology, geology, criminology, forensic psychology. All particularly relevant subjects for which the island could boast a USP. But there are many subjects, maths, English, etc., that are not location specific. 2. Students. The Isle of Wight, with its wonderful coastland, geology, etc., would be a powerful draw. 3. Student accommodation. All those big, crumbly, empty hotels. Fill them with students. 4. Campus. It's just bricks and mortar. 5. Tourism. Think of all the extra visitors to the island. The students, their visiting parents and family. And they would provide work and income for islanders during term time, but be out of the way for the main summer holiday season. 6. Demographics. A uni would redress the island's age imbalance. 7. Lifestyle. A uni would make for a vibrant and colourful injection of life, with more investment in the young, more for them to do, more money, and maybe more to stay for. And 8. It would be a benefit to the island's economy.
And now a letter from Jeremy Gully, Chair of the Benbridge Houseboat Association, headlined "Raw Sewage Claim is Incorrect." Regarding the article about increasing the number of Benbridge Harbour houseboats in the County Press on the 9th of the 2nd, half the currently occupied houseboats on plots already have sewage plant. 3 other replacement vessels confirm plant is to be incorporated. This means 14 are already sorted at no cost to the harbour. Quite rightly, all replacement boats and any old boats that are sold are under a protocol whereby the Harbour Authority properly insists on sewage being addressed at the new boat owner's cost. There is no argument, sewage should be properly addressed. However, Harbour owner Mr Thorpe's comment that 24 existing houseboats pump raw sewage into the harbour is factually wrong and unhelpful. Among the 12 oldest boats that aren't sorted so far, there are some practical difficulties and their owners may benefit from a little bit of help, but past promises of help from the harbour company have not actually materialised. Unfulfilled promises have, in fact, been counterproductive, as some owners put their own plans on hold when a tempting promise of money made them think twice about using their own. The harbour, working with the houseboat owners, could readily deal with remaining and reducing houseboat sewage problems without increasing fire risk and leave the harbour with plenty of change for other harbour improvements. At the planning meeting on February the 6th, Bembridge Parish Council suggested 28 boats might fit in, 3 more than existing, and could not see where the other 6 proposed would go. Bembridge Harbour Authority feels this is a bit more of a rational approach, moderating the fire risk issue while allowing extra plots to proceed and see adequate funds released. But the issue of new houseboats should be dealt with in a proper planning application, with public consultation, not in an LDC application, which can only ratify the existing long-term uses. Even if the harbour company's priority is to pay for all 12 sewage systems, it would only need the proceeds of one houseboat plot sale to fund it.
From Mr S. Neil Jones of Totland Bay, I had a rose that was fully out in my garden in the first week of February. I first noted the bud in early November, so it took 3 months before it bloomed. I also had a rose that bloomed in December 2017. Some friends of mine in Totland also have roses in bud, which could be out at the end of February or early March, providing that the frost does not get to them. It is the first time that I have noted roses out in the new year, so it must be a rare occurrence.
And now a letter from Mrs P Burge of Totland Bay, headlined Wrong Impression. I am writing in regarding the front page story in last week's edition with reference to the incident of the unexpected viewing of adult material by the pupils at Lanes End Primary School. That was in the County Press of the 9th of the 2nd. I feel the reporting of this incident was misleading and gave the impression the school was wrong in some way, and the headlines made it sound so much worse than it actually was. This was an unavoidable accident. This site was supposed to be safe for children, and only some of the pupils saw the brief clip. I am anxious this incident does not reflect badly on Lanes End. My grandson attends the school and has been very successful in his education. The atmosphere there is wonderful and the pupils are all very happy. The report by Joanna Hunt somewhat sensationalised this incident and raised more questions from my grandson than the actual event. Mistakes can happen anywhere, and this should be viewed as such and taken in context. And to this letter there's an editor's footnote which reads, "Our report did not seek to sensationalise the incident, but parents did contact us and we felt it right to report on it. We accept it was accidental. We also know what a well-respected school Lanes End is, and our coverage this week of the cross-country runner's success on page 76 shows we are interested in good news from the school as well."
And well done, kids, from Mr John C. Herbert of Northwood. I was privileged to enjoy the island's school's cross-country event at Northwood last Friday. I was a supporter of Team Lanes End. The boys' Year 3 and 4 team were preparing and one lad inquired, "How do we know which way to run?" "Don't worry," came the reply. "There is a grown-up runner leading the way, just follow him." The lad's reply made me smile. "But what happens when we overtake him?" His confidence and optimism were justified as his team of 6 took 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th places in a race of about 100 runners. Well done, Lanes End School.
And now a letter from Julian Critchley. Island Labour Party parliamentary spokesperson, headlined, "I'm not a scaremonger over NHS cuts." Last week, Bob Seeley wrote at length defending his government's cuts to Island NHS services, and in particular the proposed 11% cut to St Mary's Hospital provision, from the County Press letters of the 9th of the 2nd. I'm glad Bob has given up on one of his earlier claims that the cuts are, quotes, not political, and now accepts underfunding the NHS and cutting hospital services on the island are political decisions which are fully supported and defended by the Conservative Party. I would take issue with one of Bob's other claims, where he despairs of politicians trying to scare others. It's an interesting assault on the English language to redefine scaremongering as telling people facts which we'd rather they didn't know. However, perhaps we shouldn't be surprised at Bob's confusion between importance of words and actions. Bob has a track record of claiming he will deliver great things for the island from his government, while loyally supporting National Conservative cuts to our hospital, local Conservative tax rises of 6%, and a further £8 million in cuts to vital local services. So I would like to set the record straight and point out to Bob that what people are scared of is not a Labour Party press release, but the very real, very significant cuts to their hospital which the Conservatives are planning. Bob talks of fewer planned journeys to the mainland for less acute patients, yet he inexplicably fails to mention there will be many more seriously ill patients required to undergo a lengthy ferry transfer and be separated from family and friends. Bob also fails to mention the cuts will particularly affect sick children, who will be expected to travel to the mainland in far greater numbers. This will cause enormous worry for parents with just one child, let alone managing the needs of a larger family. He also neglects to mention these huge planned cuts follow previous cuts and are not going to be the end of the process of cuts either, as was made clear by the NHS Trust in a public meeting only last week. Lurking in the background of all this is the infamous Option 5, which NHS England insisted was in the paper. Bob accused Labour of scaremongering for pointing this out before the document was released. Yet, there it is, on the document. This option sets out precisely that skeleton service which Bob is so keen to assure us will not happen. This does rather beg the question of why, if it is so clearly out of the question, his own government's agency insists that it is an option. I understand why Bob is keen to present these cuts as inevitable, harmless or even beneficial. It is, after all, his government which is putting the lives and health of islanders at risk. However, he shouldn't take islanders for fools. We are quite capable of distinguishing between his warm, reassuring words and the cold reality of Conservative cuts to our hospital.
And another letter on this subject from Vix Lothian of Freshwater. No guarantee over travel. I read with some alarm the letter from our MP Bob Seeley defending the cuts in hospital provision. Bob claims health experts have identified that option 4 of the acute services redesign will improve healthcare on the island with 500 fewer trips to the mainland every year. I welcome the greater use of technology to reduce unnecessary transport for routine appointments, and am pleased to see our Solent hospitals working in an alliance to increase access to specialists. However, I question whether Mr. Seeley's full support for a reduction in services of 50% in some of our hospitals' departments is in the best interests of our island community. There is absolutely no guarantee this redesign will reduce necessary travel for islanders. The report he refers to very clearly indicates 4,779 extra journeys will be needed to be taken each year. The figure only comes down when hoped for repatriation opportunities are taken into account. These opportunities will not come from the NHS. The plan is for elective surgery to be delivered by new private healthcare providers on the island, funded by the NHS. Bob Seeley fully supports the service's redesign because it will open up the island to further marketisation and privatisation of our NHS. It has been the Conservative government's plan for years to reduce our NHS to little more than a label for private companies. I have spoken up with these concerns before. By electing a Conservative MP for the Isle of Wight, we have chosen someone who is foremost here to impose and defend the government's policies, not to fiercely argue the needs of vulnerable islanders against these deeply harmful initiatives. I urge every islander to read the document themselves and vocalise their concerns very loudly before the final decision is made within the next 6 months.
And now a letter headlined "Keep Traffic Out of Newport" from John Harry of East Cowes. I note with considerable frustration the plans to improve road conditions in and around Newport from the County Press of the 2nd of the 2nd. Resolving traffic problems in Newport isn't just about throwing money at it, it's also about identifying the real problem first and then prioritising it. While I'm sure such improvements would appear to be required, this is not the best way to achieve the desired effect, because it utterly fails to consider why there is so much traffic in Newport in the first place. Even a few moments spent studying a map of Newport shows immediately far too much traffic, which often has no business there, is being directed through the town only in order to proceed elsewhere. This fix will not solve that problem at all, but will simply encourage more traffic into the area instead of away from it. What Newport really needs first is to be free of this unnecessary congestion by finding ways to divert passing traffic around the town, and only then should plans to improve conditions in the town be considered. Indeed, I think it's possible there could be a sufficient reduction in town traffic that such improvements would no longer be necessary, and there would surely be additional benefits in terms of safer conditions within Newport and an improved air quality.
And build a bridge, says Phil Cave of Carisbrooke Park. In the past few weeks, there have been articles and letters to the editor on the proposed £9 million plans for changing the road layout in Newport. At this time of austerity, there should be sensible penny pinching by the council. This cost is not sensible when more needy plans are on the table. These grandiose plans will not solve the problem of heavy traffic in Newport at certain times. The only thing that will make a considerable difference would be a bridge across the River Medina nearing Newport and a flyover from Fairlea Road to the Asda roundabout. These new plans are just a sticking plaster to the problem. They involve pedestrianisation in the lower High Street. This would make a wasteland of the area just like other towns up and down the land. Some mainland councils are reversing precincts back to roads. Surely, if you close a road, the High Street, that would mean the same amount of traffic would be made to go along fewer roads, which would mean more congestion.
And now the looking back column, starting with 100 years ago, on February the 16th, 1918, when the parents of a Cowes soldier reported their son, driver R. Taylor, was in hospital in France suffering from trench fever. His brother, A. Taylor, had been wounded in the shoulder and sent home to England to recover. He had been serving with the colours in India and was expected to make a full recovery. The family of Captain Harold Clark of Blackwater reported that Captain Clark had died in France after being wounded in action on the Western Front. He had been fighting on the Western Front since the start of the war, and had been married less than 3 months.
75 years ago, February the 20th, 1943. A presentation on life in Poland under the Nazis was given at East Cowes Town Hall. Dr. J. Saper of the London School of Economics said because Britain and France could not be bothered with the small nations, the influence of Germany had grown stronger every day, resulting in the current situation. P.O. Harold Taylor of the RAF and a former resident of Apps Heath was reported to have lost his life over enemy territory. Taylor had been engaged in an attack and lost his life on the return flight. Rifleman Sam Garrett of Sandown also wrote to his wife to say he was making a slow recovery from a wound in his right arm he had received in Africa. He said his diet abroad included plenty of dates and oranges.
And 50 years ago, on February the 17th, 1968, British Rail ordered an additional car ferry for the Portsmouth to Fishbourne service. The new drive-on, drive-off ferry was built to carry 48 cars and 400 passengers. The increased capacity was expected to enable British Rail to expand services for lorries throughout the year and give holiday motorists more opportunities to cross during peak times. The county press was given an exclusive tour of Parkhurst Prison. It revealed that despite a lack of funding and equipment, the prison was operating efficiently. It commended the prison's good educational structure and medical facilities.
25 years ago, February the 12th, 1993. A page 3 glamour model had a brush with death after her Porsche plunged 15 feet into Palmer's Brook, Wootton. Lisa Devine, 23, of Wootton, was on her way to Fishbourne when she swerved to avoid a rabbit on the road. She was discovered hanging out of her car face down in the water by another driver. She escaped without any serious injuries. And an attempt by the 260-strong Jersey team to save on accommodation costs on the Isle of Wight for the Island Games risked putting them out of the competition. The team had booked an entire hotel in Sandown rather than going to any of the 4 designated holiday centres. They were accused of undermining the friendly spirit of the games by not mixing with other competitors.
And 10 years ago, on February the 15th, 2008, new plans were unveiled for a 21,000 square foot Waitrose in East Cowes. The shop was estimated to create up to 160 jobs, and it was believed it would play a leading role in the regeneration of East Cowes. And a dead dolphin was found washed up on an island beach. The common dolphin was found with patches of oil on its body at Watershoot Bay, Knighton, heavily polluted with oil and debris. Stephen Voigt of the British Divers Marine Life Rescue said it was difficult to determine whether the oil pollution took place at sea or on the shore after the dolphin had washed up.
And finally, 10 years ago, fishermen went on extra trips after the owners of Captain Stan's fish shop, Bembridge, had their boat ransacked. They set out to catch more so Captain Stan's, owned by Mike and Ruth Curtis, could open as usual. More than £6,000 worth of equipment was taken in the raid, including a chart plotter which contained all the information Mr. Curtis needed to go fishing.
And now the White Memories column. Written by Alan Stroud, it's headlined Invasion of the Tourists. It was early 1938 and things were not looking good. There was ominous talk of massed hordes of invaders from across the sea who spoke in alien tongues and would soon be landing on our coasts. Yes, holiday camps were coming to the island. The letters to the county press began almost immediately. Dear Sir, holidays in holiday camps with little clothing, plenty of noise and few restrictions seems to satisfy a popular demand and bring a considerable profit to the promoters. The camps will undoubtedly be supplied with provisions from the mainland. Clothes are unlikely to be purchased locally, and any demand for souvenirs and cheap cosmetics will probably be met at the camp canteen. Whitecliff Bay is threatened with invasion by strange hordes, and at Wootton, an equally undesirable camp, leads past a number of good-class private residences. In the West Wight, we already have several of these camps, the inmates of which march about the quiet country lanes, making night and day hideous with their community songs, some of very doubtful taste. I am, sir, island resident. The next week brought more of the same. These camps are a menace in every way to all the decent residents of the island. The best part of the year is ruined by this hostile invasion of campers who infest every bathing beach with their undesirable presence and pervade our quiet streets and lanes with their raucous shouts and so-called singing. Their manners are negligible and they have no consideration whatever for others. It is high time the authorities took measures to suppress any further depredations. I am, sir, yours faithfully, fellow island resident. Frank Boyce of London SW13, perhaps a camper himself, stuck up for the infesting hordes. Sir, your correspondents are greatly biased. The camp are large employers of labour and their clients spend about £20,000 last year. About 20,000 visitors last year spent a lot of money locally. The visitors are not strange hordes, but mostly teachers, civil servants, office workers, etc. I can assure him he will not be attacked with battle axes. They may be armed with nothing more than cheap cosmetics. Clara Ross of Green Gables Freshwater Bay was concerned about decent-minded people and the local youth being subject to corruption from outside. The island is so small, undesirable visitors make themselves heard, seen and felt in a way which might not be the case in a larger area where they could disport themselves without annoying decent-minded people.
Also, there is the deterioration of the youthful native population, who, very naturally, are inclined to copy the strange behaviour of these temporary immigrants. The islanders used to be remarkable for their courtesy and good manners. Alas, this pleasing trait is fast disappearing, owing to the corruption from outside. Rudeness is mistaken for wit, and screaming and shouting for genuine enjoyment. Prevention is better than cure, and it would be wiser to stem this invasion quickly before the better class of residents are driven out of the island. Clara probably had to reach for the smelling salts as one by one a series of camps were opened all across the island. By the late 1940s, there were camps at Gurnard Pines, Bramble Chine, Bryston and Yarmouth. They were joined by others in the 1950s and 1960s, including 2 camps side by side at Puckpool and St Clair. But the largest of the camps by far were the 2 that opened at Wootton. Little Canada, which had begun in the 1930s, was bought by Pontins in the late 1950s, and it enlarged the camp to take advantage of the boom in holiday camps. Just along the road was Warner's Woodside Holiday Camp, equally large and successful, so much so that in 1969 Hover Travel provided a Saturday hovercraft service direct to the camps, landing on a concrete apron on the beach at Woodside Bay. Across Britain, holiday camps became part of the British way of life, and it seemed they would go on forever. But it was not to be. always hovering in the background, cheap package holidays abroad now became a serious threat to the camps. The tipping point came in the mid-1970s, when a holiday abroad cost nearly the same as a holiday at home. The choice was simple. Was it Skegness, Burnie Clifton, and egg and chips, or Benidorm, with sun, sea and sand? It was, as they say, a no-brainer. It was the beginning of the end for the camps. Warner's sold Woodside to Grand Metropolitan in 1981, but by then it was too late. Holiday camps had well and truly lost their fizz, and when a serious fire destroyed the main complex 4 years later, Grand Met called it a day. The site then stood derelict for 30 years until it was sold in 2010 to become the Woodside Bay Lodge Retreat, a collection of high-end lodges set in unspoilt woodland. A development which arouses passions to this very day. Pontin's Little Canada managed to struggle on for a few more years, but closed in 1994, taking with it the cafe that had stood on the beach at Woodside for nearly 50 years. The camp is now a children's activity centre operated by PGL. The camps still exist at Bembridge, Yarmouth, Whitecliff Bay, Thorness, Nodes Point and St Helens. But the lodges of yesterday have been replaced by static caravans. Today, 70 years after Clara tried to stem this invasion, the sites, now rebranded as holiday parks, are as busy as ever.
And now the My View column by Jake Harrison, headlined "Why Electric is the Only Way to Go." Electrically powered cars are becoming far more common, especially on the island. They are cheaper to run and are said to be much more efficient, and with the government's plan to ban the sale of fossil-fuelled vehicles by 2040, I believe the island will soon become home to many more in the near future. So what do Islander John Ackroyd and Tesla billionaire CEO Elon Musk have in common? For starters, they're both innovators who look only towards the future and not back. They have both already cemented their place in design and engineering history with their remarkable achievements, and I'm sure if the two men were ever likely to meet, they would spend hours discussing the concept that is the electric car. Anyway, forget Elon for a second. Let's discuss the achievements of Mr. Ackroyd. The former designer is in line to be given the freedom of ride for helping to build the first practical electric city car in 1970, and for also designing the record-breaking Thrust 2 car, all in a rented shed in Fishbourne. So it's pretty clear John most certainly knows a thing or two about record-breaking innovation. Now here is the reason I have started this column mentioning the eccentric billionaire. In the past month I have seen at least 4 shiny new Tesla electric cars on Isle of Wight roads. This has most certainly intrigued me. What is it about these exciting and revolutionary new electric vehicles that have become so attractive and appealing to islanders? I'm no Jeremy Clarkson, but I know enough about automobiles to suggest electric cars are steadily growing more popular. In the future, we could see many more, and where better to own one than on the Isle of Wight? It's the perfect location. So let's get down to business. What exactly are they, and why should you think about investing in one? Let me give you the idiot's, that's me, brief guide to electric cars. To put it simply, electric cars are powered 100% by electricity, which is contained in a rechargeable battery in the vehicle. They have been around for a very long time. However, due to advances in combustion engines and mass production of affordable petrol for conventional cars, they rapidly declined. But now they're back, so let's work out the pros and cons. The benefits of owning an electric car are simple. lower fuel costs, electricity is cheaper than petrol or diesel, zero emissions driving, financial benefits such as charging costs and repairs, and even funding towards the cost of buying and installing a home charge point. Location. The island is an ideal location for electric cars due to its size. Electric car hire schemes for tourists visiting the island. Local specialist repair centres such as Lupton Auto Electrics, based in Newport. A range of cars are available, from the Renault Zoe, Nissan Leaf, Ford Focus Electric to the Tesla Model S. There are downsides, however. Current battery technology means their range is limited. Affordability, unless you want to look on the second-hand market. Availability of charging stations, although there are more than 14 electric car charging points on the island. Charging at night could be a problem. The fear of taking it to the mainland, running out of electricity, getting lost and inevitably getting eaten by an escaped panther. I hope I've made it a little easier for you, should you ever have to make the decision between staying as you are or embracing the electric. I believe electric cars are the way forward, and I also believe in a few years they could be even cheaper to buy than conventional petrol or diesel cars. Electric cars are here to stay. But if the government really wants to effectively ban petrol and diesel cars from 2040, then those boffins at Tesla better get cracking. Or if not, give John a call. I'm sure he'll still be up for the challenge.
And Jonathan Young writes, St Mary's fine if you're not too ill. The planned downgrading of St Mary's Hospital is as alarming as it is unsurprising. St Mary's is stretched to capacity. When there's a winter crisis, or a summer one for that matter, it has to curtail its activities in order to cope. It's therefore a demonstrably vital part of the island's infrastructure. Providing a full-service hospital here lacks the economies of scale available to mainland centres. For any given specialism, more resources per head of population are required than in Portsmouth or Southampton. This bottom line isn't rocket science, and the island's NHS Clinical Commissioning Group understands it perfectly well. What it seems to understand less well is the trauma and risks involved in travelling 10 or 20 miles for medical treatment when the Solent gets in the way. Some routine care will be repatriated to the island, and the CCG's claim, via a set of tenuous assumptions, is a net saving of 500 patient journeys a year from the island to the mainland will be achieved. To square this with other headline statistic, 11% of the island's hospital-based activity, the more complex urgent cases, are to be transferred for specialist care to the mainland. You have to offset the thousands of journeys this will entail against a modestly larger number of hoped-for stay on the island routine cases. The words of CC Chair Dr. Michelle Legg, we want to ensure nobody has to make difficult journeys for hospital care unless they absolutely have to. But we also accept, for a small number of patients with certain complex conditions, they will receive better care and results from their treatment from larger, more specialist teams than those we have based on the island. I offer the following translation, and by the way, 11% isn't a small number. If you're not very ill, you've not much to worry about. St Mary's will be fine for you. In fact, you might even benefit, because in future we're going to specialise in patients who aren't very ill. But if there is anything seriously the matter with you, you need to follow the money. And the money's not here, because this reorganisation's going to save the island NHS £80 million. The money's in Portsmouth and Southampton. Off you go, get well soon. Yes, there will be ambulances, and the charity air ambulance to support the safety of patients being transferred to or retrieved from the mainland. No doubt the masters of Solent ferries will hold departure, as they sometimes do, for middle-of-the-night emergencies, when the alternative is a 2 or 3 hour wait. But is this really progress? Some of those journeys will now be made by small, frightened, sick children and their parents. Parents who've little choice but to go back and forth for days on end because of St Mary's new one-night-only rule. Some will be made by people unfit to travel by reason of age or infirmity, regardless of the medical condition which causes their referral. And some won't be made at all. There is anecdotal evidence. Some island patients, typically the old and the frail, already decline life-prolonging treatment because the trauma of getting to it, added to the trauma of, say, chemotherapy, is just too much to face. Moving to a system where, even more than now, it's the sickest of the sick who have to make that journey is going to add to those numbers, and I don't need to spell out the consequences of that. As for politicians such as Bob Seeley, who start dressing bad news up as good, what they're actually saying is, sorry guys, afraid I can't do anything about this one, party policy. And as for the CCG, it is a little hard of hearing when it comes to getting the message. Health professionals will tell you public consultations are carried out for form's sake. Hard of hearing, but not stone deaf. When there's enough of a hullabaloo, they hear it. They heard it when they tried to put the skids under our rural GP surgeries, and they backed down. Now, as they plan to decimate St Mary's, a much louder hullabaloo is required.
And now some What's On items. On Tuesday, we have coming up a folk night at the Dairyman's Daughter in Arreton from 8:30pm, and Jazz at the Mouse with the Grant O'Brien Trio at the White Mouse Inn in Chale from 8:30pm to 11pm. On Wednesday, we have the Bembridge Singers at Holy Trinity Church in Bembridge from 7:30pm. And on Thursday, we have the Jazz and Blues Variety Evening with the Steve Parks Piano Trio and guests at the White Hotel in Sandown from 8:30pm to 11:30pm.
If it's theatre you like, why not go along to Newport's Key Arts throughout February and March? The play Canals of Old England by the Bonnet and Belt Theatre Company is on Saturday, March the 3rd. The new show, written by playwright Phil Underwood, tells the fascinating story of the golden age of English canals through music, verse and real canal stories. Also, the Flabbergast Theatre Company will perform a mix of mime, puppetry and physical comedy, juxtaposing themes of loneliness and belonging with joy and exhilaration, as one man goes on a quest to find a friend. In the play Tatterdemalion on Friday, March the 9th. The Angel Exit Theatre will perform the Nordic road trip drama The Drive on Friday the 23rd of March.
And that's it from the County Press for this week. So it's goodbye from Stephen.
And it's goodbye from Jan.
Goodbye.
Good morning. This is Chris.
And this is Pauline.
And Brian.
Reading the Sight for Wight newsletter, previously known as the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind, for February 2018. Message from the Chairman. A new year is now dawning.
and the Christmas period is well and truly over. People are struggling with their New Year resolutions. Why do we bother? We are certainly moving forward with our ambitious plans for 2018, which will enable our society to achieve many advantages for the benefit of our members. The trustees, with Miriam's input, are pushing forward in our aim in raising the Society's profile island-wide. New staff members are settling in well, including our new finance officer, Lisa Hollyhead, who started with us recently. The format of job descriptions for our staff have been rewritten to enable much more flexibility in meeting members' requirements. The new premises for Dress for Less has proved to have been a really positive move. Business has increased and our profile has been raised by the use of our website and Facebook, and also word of mouth. Due to this increase, we do require more volunteers in the shop to take advantage of this opportunity. If possible, please spread the word to anyone you know who may be interested in volunteering for the Society. I will be presenting the Chairman's address at the annual general meeting on the 13th of March, where more detailed information will be covered. Finally, may I take this opportunity to wish everyone a happy and healthy 2018. From Paul Rutherford, the Chairman.
Happy New Year from the CEO. New Year and a new logo and working name. One of the many things worked on in the run-up to Christmas was the redesign of our logo and change in working name to Sight for Wight. After much consideration and consultation, including the majority of respondents who supported a name change when asked this question in the 2017 user survey, the decision to update the name and logo was made to broaden the appeal of the charity and to reflect the 21st rather than the 19th century when the charity was first established. Whilst we are proud of the origins and heritage of the charity, founded in 1895, it is important to ensure that the widest group of islanders who might benefit from the charity know that we are here for them. There are thousands of people on the island who are sight impaired and might benefit from the support and services we offer, but who are not registered blind and might therefore imagine they cannot turn to us for information, help or support. Especially for those more recently diagnosed with a sight loss condition, we had become increasingly aware that the charity name Isle of Wight Society for the Blind might have been off-putting. We were extremely fortunate that Matt Rutherford, a professional graphic designer based in Australia, yes, there's a family connection with our chairman, volunteered his time and talent without charge to make the changes based on our brief. Whilst Sight for Wight will be adopted as our new working name, we will still retain the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind as the original legal name for the purposes of registration with the Charities Commission and Companies House. This means that our respective registration numbers will be unchanged and supporters, followers and funders, old and new, should have no difficulty in tracing our history and records.
Reorganisation and 2018 structure. Planning for the year ahead is now well underway, following the complete review of our organisational structure and job descriptions undertaken during the past several months. The trustees have approved some significant changes to ensure that we are more focused on our core objectives of delivering support and services for those affected by sight loss across the island. Marketing, Communications and Fundraising Manager. From the 1st of November 2017, Chris Kane was promoted to the role of Marketing, Communications and Fundraising Manager. The significant change to the job description will more effectively utilise Chris's many strengths and skills, and we hope will bring increasing professionalism to these vitally important aspects of the work of Sight for Wight, especially at a time when we hope to deliver a growing range of support and services and need to generate additional revenue to support these and existing services. Chris now has a very demanding workload, but I am confident that he will continue to work closely with colleagues to deliver it successfully. In the near future, he will be working closely with Michelle to see if we can recruit some new event stewards, ambassadors and fundraisers to support us. Member Services Manager. The most significant change for service users is the replacement of the role of Centre Administrator with that of Member Services Manager. Laura Jasper, with her professional background as a dispensing optician, is perfectly placed to deliver improved services for members, including exploring a number of new activities at venues across the island to reflect the range of suggestions made by respondents to the 2017 user survey. Laura took up her revised role with the effect from 1st of January 2018. Laura is currently exploring a range of possibilities and, working closely with Chris, will ensure that information about any new opportunities are sent out to you in good time. To enable the delivery of support, services and activities at a variety of locations across the island, Laura will usually spend 2 days each week at location other than Millbrook House.
Administrative Assistant. This newly created part-time role will ensure that, whilst Laura Jasper is at other locations developing, supporting and delivering member services, we will still have someone in the office who can deal with telephone inquiries and messages, provide some admin support and generally facilitate the smooth running of whatever may be happening at Millbrook House. We are delighted that Susan Early, who has proved herself an excellent and versatile team member, will undertake this role. Susan has been the interim finance officer for the past several months, pending the review of that role. Susan will take up the admin post following an induction and handover to a new part-time finance officer. Finance officer. Following a review of this role, which included taking some independent expert advice, the finance officer role has been reduced from 21 hours per week to 16, typically to be worked over 4 mornings. Following a thorough recruitment and selection process, I am pleased to announce that Lisa Hollyhead joined Sight for Wight in mid-January. Lisa brings a wealth of experience as a qualified chartered accountant and successful business person. One of the particular reasons that motivated Lisa to apply to join us is that she has herself been registered blind since birth, so feels particular empathy with the aims and role of Sight for Wight. Volunteer Manager. While the demand for new volunteers is ever increasing, the role remains pretty much as it has in recent years. However, the new job title, Volunteer Manager, will replace that of Community Development Officer, which was somewhat ambiguous and misleading. Michelle Taylor will continue to bring her professionalism and great wealth of experience to this vital role, with a need to recruit, vet and induct additional volunteers to support proposed new services and activities, as well as maintaining sufficient volunteers to deliver our traditional volunteer roles and tasks. Currently, the volunteer manager role is 21 hours per week.
Chief Executive. To fund the introduction of an additional part-time team member, the trustees approved a proposed reduction in my hours as Chief Executive from 28 to 21 hours a week, with effect from 1st of January 2018. Of course, working on behalf of a charity where so many people volunteer their respective time and talents, I too will continue to volunteer many additional hours. So, whilst no less committed to Sight for Wight and with a very clear vision for steering the way forward, This is an important personal decision, enabling me to enjoy moving gently towards semi-retirement. However, there are many plans afoot to deliver first, so a significant proportion of my time in the coming year will be devoted to researching and applying for funds from trusts, funds and major grant givers to enable us to develop and deliver our plans into the future. Site for Wight Duty Manager. Finally, with all of the above developments taking place, several team members will increasingly be spending more time away from Millbrook House and out and about on the island, developing and delivering new plans and services. For this reason, we will ensure that a duty manager is identified each working day, drawn from the above team, to ensure that messages and communications are dealt with appropriately and that the individual with daily responsibility for supporting the smooth running of operations is identified. With all these developments and plans together, we have an exciting year ahead, as I'm sure you will agree. And that's Miriam Tong, Chief Executive. 2017 Christmas afternoon. We held our members' Christmas celebration on Tuesday 12th of December 2017. Mince pies and mulled wine were served, with entertainment provided by Ricky J, followed by the White Ukers, who finished with a group sing-along. The afternoon was a great success and members left with a Christmas gift. We look forward to seeing you all again and some new faces at our members' summer gathering on Thursday, 14th of June.
Donation from the Interact Club of Cows. On the 3rd of November 2017, the Interact Club of Cows, the junior wing of the Rotary Club, held a quiz in aid of the Isle of Wight Society for the Blind. They all worked hard to put on a successful quiz night with such a great total raised. On the 3rd of December, Laura Jasper attended their meeting at the Lord Louis Library, where they presented a cheque to the Society for £250. The club runs alongside the Rotary Club, and they hold fundraising events for different charities and good causes, both on the island and internationally. It is remarkable that a group of teenagers who are also busy with studying, part-time jobs and other organisations are able to give so much of their time to the Interact Club.
Being a trustee. One of my favourite jobs as a trustee and volunteer at the Society is going out into the community and talking to children and young people about living with sight loss. Earlier this year, I was invited to Arreton Primary School as part of their Disability Awareness Week. I did 3 20-minute slots in the main hall with varying age groups and managed to talk to the whole school. I talked about equipment, getting about and things I use in my home to help me. The children were lovely and had some really interesting questions, including how new technology is helping me and how do I get dressed in the morning. To be honest, my guide dog Flora was the main attraction and really stole the show as she munched a carrot and then snored through my talk. I received some really positive feedback from the head teacher and a lovely thank you letter from the children. I think it is a really important thing to do, and I hope that raising awareness with young people makes all of our lives a bit easier. And that was from Ruth Hollingshead, a trustee and volunteer.
Member services. Since my role has changed, I've been looking into the different activities that are available across the island that our members may be interested in. Updates on new groups will be announced on Talking News, our website, and our Facebook page. I will be visiting community groups and drop-in sessions across the island to make Sight for Wight easier to access for members who do not live within the Newport postcode. The first of these groups was the My Place community drop-in session at the West Wight Sports Centre in Mower Place in Freshwater, which I attended in January. This group runs every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. It is a friendly social event where different organisations meet to support meet to offer support and advice to the public. Refreshments are available along with pool and table tennis. I will be attending on a monthly basis, taking along low vision aids and equipment and offering information on the services we provide. All members are welcome to come along, even if it's just to say hello and have a cup of tea. I will be there on the following dates: Tuesday, 20th of February, Tuesday, 20th of March, Tuesday, 17th of April, and Tuesday, 15th of May. January also saw the first meeting of the Newport Audio Book Club, which is being held at Lord Louis Library on the second Wednesday of each month at 2 p.m. We will read and then discuss a different book each month, whilst enjoying a cup of tea or coffee. If you would like to join us, just come along. The monthly book is available in CD or USB stick format. And that's from Laura Jasper, Member Services Manager.
New events for Cite the Wight. In my role as Marketing, Communications and Fundraising Manager, I'm delighted to share with you some of the many new events we are planning to attend on the island in order to help promote our new Cite for Wight working name, and also to raise awareness of what we can offer in terms of help and support and reach out to people island-wide. Some of the new events we will be attending include UK Pride, the island beat-off competition from Exeter Pride, Folkestone Pride, Liverpool Pride, Preston Pride and Pride Cymru. Last year's Ride Pride attracted 5,000 people, and it's estimated that this year could see 3 times that, which is great for the society, as it means we'll be able to promote ourselves and our charity objectives. Also this year, we're delighted to be a part of Island Comic Con, or Island Con as they are now known. We're privileged to be attending this year, as I was informed that they don't always allow charity stalls. Comic Con is where fans who enjoy science fiction, fantasy, horror, initially comics, but now it's anything science fiction, fantasy, whether it be comic, television or film, get together, dress up as their favourite superhero or character and just have a fun time. We're hoping to recruit volunteer event stewards, ambassadors to help. Any new volunteer recruited in 2018 will be required to attend a 3-hour training session to ensure they are confident about representing Cite for Wight and can talk about our aims and services and demonstrate simple low vision equipment in addition to selling any merchandise on offer. This is from Chris Kane, Marketing, Communications and Fundraising Manager.
2017 Short Story Writing Competition. This year's short story writing competition attracted some quality talent from the 121 entrants. The 3 celebrity readers this year were Adana Minghella, Katie Manning, and newcomer and island resident Melvin Hayes. I met Melvin to record his story last December, and he was an absolute delight to spend time with as we chatted about his varied film and television career, from working with Cliff Richard in Summer Holiday to the hugely popular TV sitcom It Ain't Half Hot Mum. I'd also forgotten that he was in children's television show Double Deckers back in the 70s, so it was lovely to discuss some of my favourite childhood television. Adana Minghella lives in Brighton, and if you haven't heard her singing voice, then you really must go and buy her latest CD, All or Nothing. The year before last, when I went to record her story reading, we had some help from her cat, Perry, but last year he wasn't interested. Adana very kindly attended the award ceremony and closed the show with a beautiful jazz number. I didn't get to see Katie Manning this year, but was lucky enough to have a friend, Paul Ballard, who works for Phantom Films, where Katie does a lot of audio stories, and they very kindly agreed to record Katie for me at their studio. The award ceremony was well attended, but, due to the boiler breaking down at Newport Minster, it was extremely cold, so the evening finished a lot sooner than intended. However, £650 was raised, and I would like to thank everyone who sponsored, attended and supported the event. There will be some exciting news about this year's competition later in the year. And that's from Chris Kane.
Consultation survey results. With many thanks to the 134 members who contributed to the survey, we're pleased to have gathered so much valuable data to enable us to review our current and inform our future plans and activities. We've lost no time in starting to act on the information provided. For example, the majority of respondents were in favour of a name change to promote a more inclusive organisation that supported those with visual impairment. So I hope you like our revised logo and working name. The survey also identified that 87% of you would prefer to participate in activities that are open to both sighted and visually impaired people, rather than activities targeted and arranged specifically for those with visual impairment. This will certainly inform our plans, and we're currently pursuing inquiries with a variety of potential partners and providers to see if Sight for Wight members can be encouraged to join existing groups and activities run at locations across the island if we can offer them sighted guide training and support. Whilst a fuller presentation of the survey will be made at the AGM in March, I thought you'd be interested in the results of the key questions asked about how positive an impact various of our traditional services and activities have, and also in learning the top 12 suggestions of services and activities that you felt could make the greatest positive impact to you.
To arrive at a single numerical score to rate and rank all of the activities, scores for each respondent were weighted as follows. Slightly positive, score 1. Moderately positive, score 2. Very positive, score 3. Extremely positive, score 4. Isle of Wight Society for the Blind current services with their scores. Newsletter 170. Talking News 159. Millbrook House Information 103. Audio Library 95. Millbrook House Low Vision Drop-ins 54. 10-pin Bowling 42. Strollers Walking Group 42. Owls Thursday Social Group at Millbrook House 33. Ride Swimming Group 33. Striders Walking Group 30. Millbrook House Coffee Morning 29. Opportunities to volunteer for Isle of Wight Society for the Blind 20. Isle of Wight Society for the Blind Volunteer Home Visit Service 18. Golf at Ride 18. Millbrook House Braille Production 10. Knighton Coffee Morning 6. Bembridge Coffee Morning 6. Freshwater Coffee Morning 4.
Top 12 scoring suggestions for services or activities that would have a positive impact. Quarterly day trips to the Isle of Wight heritage sites or tourist attractions, 191. Social activities closer to your home, 188. Monthly food and drink tasting group sessions at other venues, 180. Introduction to technology course over several weeks, 177. Quarterly day trips to mainland heritage sites or tourist attractions, 174. Quarterly technology group, keep abreast of apps, iPads, computers, etc., 153. Monthly food and drink tasting group sessions at Millbrook House, 147. Organised holidays and short breaks supported with sighted guide volunteers, 138. Age-appropriate exercise classes such as yoga, 132. Monthly technology group, keep abreast of apps, iPads, computers, etc., 131. Other sport or activity taster days, 116. Monthly music group, singing, listening and occasional live performances, 114. Laura Jasper, in her new role as Members Services Manager, will be working closely with team members to explore new opportunities. Volunteers Manager Michelle Taylor will be closely involved to secure appropriate volunteer support required, and Chris Kane as Marketing, Communications and Fundraising Manager will be supporting the promotion of these. Our plan for 2018 is that, in addition to our newsletter, we will aim to send out information of any new planned activities and opportunities on a quarterly basis. So thank you again for your help in shaping these exciting plans. And that was from Miriam Tong, the Chief Executive of Sight for Wight.
New wallets for Talking News. For those of you who are subscribed to our free Talking News service, you may have noticed a change in the wallets that you received the USB stick in. Thanks to a generous donation from the Wight Strollers, we've been able to replace the old-style Velcro wallets with new, easier-to-use zipper wallets. These new style wallets are being rolled out across the board, so you should all be receiving them through your letterboxes soon. If you're not already signed up to Talking News but would like more information, then please contact the Society on 522205 or email enquiries@iwsb.org.uk.
Project Swan, making sailing accessible for all. You may have recently read or heard about Project Swan being organised by Brading Haven Yacht Club. It involves designing and building a specially modified Bembridge Swan dinghy for visually impaired people, making sailing more accessible for all. The club are delighted to have Lucy Hodges MBE from GBR Blind Sailing as one of their advisors. They have received amazing support since launching their fundraising campaign, including a very generous donation from Cheetah Marine, who kindly offered to donate the materials for the hull production, and a £350 donation from the co-op. The first phase production is due to start in May, and fundraising efforts will continue to enable the project to progress. Brading Haven Yacht Club is looking forward to giving members the opportunity of sailing her once she is completed and in the water. If you'd like to donate towards the project or for more information, please visit Facebook or Just Giving pages. The links are www.facebook.com/BradingHavenYC/ or www.justgiving.com/crowdfunding/Project Swan BHYC.
Audiobooks. Having lived with sight loss since childhood, I am a great advocate for audiobooks and am amazed at the services that are now available to visually impaired people. Gone are the days when the stories were recorded in someone's kitchen with the budgie tweeting in the background and you had to wait months for new releases. Now the recordings are done by professionally trained actors, and often the audio version is launched at the same time as the printed book. I also love the versatility of audio books. You can peel the potatoes while Stephen Fry reads you Harry Potter, or lay in the bath while Dame Maggie Smith narrates Alan Bennett's The Lady in the Van. As many of you are aware, Sight for Wight has an excellent talking library, which is run by one of our amazing volunteers, Kate Stone. We have a wide selection of audio books which can be borrowed completely free of charge. Simply ring the Society to sign up and request a catalogue. However, if you would like to borrow books in other formats, there is another alternative. The RNIB library is the largest of its kind in Europe, and it's also now completely free, with over 60,000 items in the collection. Their library not only has audio books available on CD or memory stick, but they also have a wide selection of titles in both giant print and braille. If you would like to join the RNIB library or request a catalogue, please ring their helpline on 0303 123 9999, and that's from Ruth Hollingshead.
Volunteer News Round. Welcome. We're pleased to welcome 6 new volunteers to our team. The majority of the new members have joined Dress for Less. We also welcome our new mini bus driver, Paul, who has many years specialist driving. Au revoir. Sadly, we've said goodbye to 2 volunteers from Dress for Less and wish them well for the future. Volunteer vacancies. We have volunteer vacancies in various roles, e.g. minibus escort, home visitors, coffee morning support with refreshments, walking buddy escorts, Dress for Less, and fundraising throughout the summer months. Should you know anyone who may be interested, please let me know, and I will be happy to send an application pack or discuss the various volunteer roles available. Volunteer Fair, Botanic Gardens, Ventnor, 13th of January 2018. Chris and I attended this recruitment event again this year, and we're extremely pleased with the interest expressed by potential volunteers. We had a busy day with lots of visitors to the stand and have already received applications from potential volunteers. I found this to be a good networking and promotional event, which generates a lot of interest in the Society. Our core objectives for 2018 include attending additional fundraising events, particularly in the summer months. Further details will be printed in our next newsletter. This has highlighted the need for additional volunteer support, and we have created a new volunteer role, events stewards and ambassadors, primarily to raise the profile of Sight for Wight. We welcome applications from all prospective volunteers, and particularly from young people who may be interested in attending high-profile music events throughout the summer months. Please contact me for further information, and if you have a family member or friend who may be interested, please spread the word.
2018 dates for your diary. Vectis radio interview, Tuesday 6th of March, 1:30 p.m. Volunteer recruitment. Volunteer team updates. Tuesday 6th of March, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Wine and nibbles. Wednesday 12th of September, 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. Wine and nibbles. Tuesday 11th of December, 2 to 4 p.m. Mulled wine and mince pies. Volunteer party, Thursday 7th of June, 2:30 to 5 p.m. Thank you again for your ongoing support and the time and dedication you give to the Society. From Michelle Taylor, Volunteer Manager.
Financial results. Year ended 31st of March 2017. The report of the trustees and unaudited financial statements for the year ended 31st of March 2017 has been lodged with the Charity Commission and is available from their website and our website. A presentation of the report and accounts will be made at the AGM to be held on Tuesday the 13th of March. In summary, key figures for the year ended March 2017 are given with comparative figures for the previous year, ended March 2016, given in brackets. The total income in 2017 was £309,448, and in 2016 it was £227,964. The total expenditure in 2017 was £175,153, and in 2016 it was £214,029. The net income in 2017 was £138,892. In 2016 it was £13,663. Overall, these figures are very positive. We again enjoyed a very good year with regard to support from donations and legacies. Donations in 2017, £17,236. In 2016, £6,723. Legacies in 2017, £206,759, and in 2016, £137,647. However, it is with dismay that the trustees report an ex gratia payment identified in Note 11 to the accounts as follows. During the year, it came to the trustees' attention that a member of staff had been overpaid in comparison to originally agreed salary. As the overpayment had been occurring for approximately 2 years, the overpayment has amounted to £10,500. The trustees have come to the decision that to seek repayment of these funds would create financial hardship for the employee in question, and therefore have agreed that the charity has a moral obligation not to seek repayment in the circumstances. The trustees have put in place procedures to ensure payroll is more closely monitored and avoid any similar situations in the future.
To expand on that statement and identify the range of controls that are now in place to strengthen financial governance, the following are new measures adhered to. The trustees deeply regret the accidental overpayment that was identified in January 2017 and reported in a financial accounts for the year ended 31st of March 2017. Following professional advice, the decision not to seek repayment was agreed by trustees in February 2017 for the avoidance of financial hardship by the employee in question. The establishment of a finance subcommittee was approved at a meeting of trustees held in May 2017 to strengthen and continuously review financial activities and procedures of the charity. The terms of reference for the Finance Subcommittee are clearly defined and include an internal audit function. The Finance Subcommittee comprises a minimum of 2 trustees, including the Treasurer, together with the CEO and Finance Officer. The Finance Subcommittee has to date met on 3 occasions. Formal minutes are recorded and circulated with reports made to the full Board of Trustees. The Isle of Wight Society for the Blind payroll function has, in recent years, been outsourced. The overpayment originated when a part-time employee was erroneously paid the full-time equivalent rate, contrary to information supplied the former payroll office. When Isle of Wight Society for the Blind appointed a different firm of accountants, the payroll details were passed directly from the previous company to the present company, and the error was perpetuated. A meeting of the Finance Subcommittee trustees and the Chief Executive was held with the charity's firm of accountants in July 2017 to discuss the overpayment. At this meeting, controls were discussed and agreed and have subsequently been implemented to enable the CEO and treasurer and or other trustee member of the Finance Subcommittee to monitor and check salary payments each month. Further, all correspondence between the finance officer and the payroll team at the accountants is copied to the CEO for information, monitoring and checking.
The CEO and Finance Subcommittee will introduce and implement any other controls deemed appropriate to prevent the possibility of accidental overpayment. The CEO and trustees are implementing a budget for the new financial year to enable quarterly monitoring of all actual expenditure against budgeted expenditure. This will enable more immediate recognition of any deviations from budgeted expenditure. The charity is moving towards the implementation of online banking that will require online payment set up by the finance officer to be formally released by one or two authorised signatories in accordance with agreed financial limits. The finance officer will not be an authorised signatory of the charity. The employee concerned is no longer with the charity. All salaries are now being paid at the correct rates agreed. Some specific examples of where financial practice has been reviewed and systems strengthened include with regard to static box collections, bucket collections, petty cash management, other cash received, ordering procedures, and the adoption of and adherence to good fundraising practice. An application has been made to the Charity Commission in respect of the moral ex gratia payment. The CEO and trustees are committed to ensuring good financial governance. They have been and will continue to work together to strengthen financial governance and promote best practice across all of the charity's financial activities. This is from Miriam Tong, Chief Executive, Isle of Wight Society for the Blind.
Coming up in the Wednesday social group. The Wednesday social group is open to all, not just members. Wednesday the 28th of February will feature music from a local band, Slante Var. Slante Var sing traditional Irish and Scottish songs, play dances, reels and jigs, as well as an unusual blend of modern songs that take their fancy, including Lindisfarne, Bob Dylan, Nancy Griffiths and the Pogues. Wednesday the 11th of April sees the return of zookeeper Gary Harbour. Gary is a zookeeper at the Isle of Wight Zoo and gave a fascinating talk last year. By popular demand he is returning, but not alone. This time he is planning to bring along a snake, a gecko, tenrec, guinea pig and possibly a chicken. Don't miss out on this wonderful opportunity to interact with some of these beautiful animals.
Ride Swimming Group. Our swimming group meets every Tuesday evening from 8 p.m. till 8:45 p.m. at the Waterside Pool in Ryde. They have exclusive use of the pool during this session. The group is open to any visually impaired person who is a keen swimmer or who just enjoys being in the water. The pool's lifeguards are in attendance during the session. Pre-registering with the society is essential, otherwise you may be refused admittance.
Wednesday social group. Our Wednesday social group meets every fortnight from 2 p.m. at Millbrook House. The Owls have different speakers who come to give talks on a variety of subjects. These have ranged from singers to ghost talks. After the talk, the group chat over a cup of tea or coffee before going home. This group is open to non-members, but please register your interest in advance.
Thursday social group. The Thursday social group meets every week from 10:30 a.m. till 2 p.m. at Millbrook House, where they engage with other visually impaired people. They socialise and enjoy lunch together. In the afternoon, the group welcome volunteers who come in to read from various books about local history, general fiction, or, a more popular choice, comedy. This group is open to non-members, but please register your interest in advance.
Strollers. Strollers meet on the second Tuesday of the month. They go for gentle strolls, enjoying the island's countryside or coastal views. This is followed by lunch at a nearby pub or restaurant. The group is open to all visually impaired people who like a leisurely walk of about a mile.
Striders. Striders meet on the last Friday of every month. They walk on different routes around the island and then finish off with lunch at a local pub or restaurant. This group is open to all visually impaired people who like longer walks in the countryside.
Golf. The golfers meet once a month at Westridge Golf Club Ryde. The golf group go on to the driving ranges and out onto the course. An instructor is available to help out beginners.
Bowling. The bowling group meets once a month at LA Bowl in Ryde. The cost is £3.95 for 2 games. This group is open to all visually impaired people. Please note there is no transport for this group. If you're interested in joining any of the activities, please contact the Society for more information. Transport may be available to some of the groups.
Dress for less. All retailers dread January as a trading month. Not only is the weather usually dreary, but people's purse strings are still coping with the Christmas spending. However, we have managed to buck the trend, and at the end of the first month, we're showing a healthy increase. But with this increase, we will undoubtedly see an increase in our payout. Whilst we don't have to pay for our stock, with the exception of our bought-in hats and fascinators, we do in the main have to give back 50% of our sales. This is why we welcome donated stock and are eternally grateful to the clients who give us their unsold 50/50 stock. It certainly helps to pay our rent. Our new shop continues to be a hit with our volunteers and customers. It is a joy to work in. Sadly, we have lost some volunteers and therefore we have had to return to a 5-day working week. We are currently not open on a Monday. Tuesday to Saturday we take in garments for resale from 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Currently we are still taking in winter clothes with a mix of early spring. By mid-February that will change to spring wear only. Our jewellery cabinets continue to tick over, and we are indebted to Vivienne, one of our volunteers, for all her support logging in and displaying the jewellery. Our Facebook page continues to raise our profile. This is through the expertise of Chris for his professional videos and Anthea for her clever photography. This will be my last write-up for the newsletter, as I am retiring from my 50 years in fashion at the end of April. It has been a great journey. Not everyone can say they love their jobs, but I can. From my high-flying days in London and Paris to my years working for charities on the island, I have enjoyed myself. Yes, I will miss changing the windows and displays, advising our customers on what suits them, the buying of the hats and fascinators, looking at the glorious affordable clothes brought into us, and of course my fellow volunteers. However, in the autumn of my years, I want to spend more time with my family and friends in London and Somerset. My base will continue to be on the island. I wish every success to the Society and Dress for Less in the years to come. And this is from Julie Clifton.
Save the date. Dates for your diary. Sight for Wight Members Forum 2018 dates. The forums will be held at Millbrook House between 12 and 1:30 on the following dates. All members are welcome to attend. Agendas and minutes are available on our website. Wednesday, the 18th of April 2018. Wednesday, the 18th of July 2018, and Wednesday, the 17th of October 2018.
Annual General Meeting 2018. The AGM will be held on Tuesday, 13th of March 2018 at Millbrook House. RSVP invitations to be sent to all members and volunteers in due course. There will be a chance to enjoy refreshments and view our new logo and literature from 10 a.m. The AGM will follow at 11 a.m.
Low Vision Day. We'll be holding a Low Vision Open Day here at Millbrook House on Thursday the 3rd of May 2018 from 2:30 to 6:30 p.m. Confirmed exhibitors at the time of printing are Enhanced Vision and Orcam. Our resource room will also be open with our low vision equipment on display.
Members' Summer Gathering. We will be holding a summer gathering for members on Thursday the 14th of June 2018 from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. RSVP invitations will be sent out nearer the time.
Quiz night at the Waverley Pub. A quiz night in aid of Sight for Wight, Isle of Wight Society for the Blind, will be held at the Waverley Pub in July 2018. Final date and times to be confirmed. This will be advertised on our website, Facebook page and Talking News.
Resource Roundup. Did you know that 76% of UK adults now own a smartphone and over 32 million phones are purchased annually in the UK? This is from the source deloitte.co.uk/mobile-UK. If you're looking to taking the first step into smartphones, then there are a few options available to you.
Synaptic have a range of Samsung phones all loaded with their speech and magnification software, ranging from the basic bronze design all the way to a gold design phone with extra features. You can also purchase the software only, which you can then load onto an existing smartphone. We have a demo version of the software at the Society, which members can book in to come and trial. Synaptic have a partnership with Blind Veterans UK, so this is something to consider if you are a veteran and are looking for a new phone or tablet. And you can get in touch on email through www.synapptic.com.
The CAPSYS, that's KAPSYS, Smart Vision 2 Premium phone is available from www.sightandsound.co.uk. This also has built-in speech and magnification software, but has the added feature of both the touch screen and physical keyboard. This is useful if you are used to a phone with keys and are not ready to go to a full touch screen. So information can be found on www.sightandsound.co.uk.
Articles wanted. We are interested in articles from members or volunteers for our quarterly newsletters. If you would like to submit an article with or without photos, please email to enquiries@iwsb.org.uk. Please ensure you have permission of people featured in any photos to use their image.
And that concludes the reading of the Sight for Wight newsletter, February 2018. So it's goodbye from Chris.
And goodbye from Pauline.
And from Brian.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter Wight. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Many of the most intriguing issues that we discuss on In Touch come from you, and tonight's programme is a case in point. It's arisen from an email we received from listener James Bird.
I think blindness and disability in general and masculinity are under-discussed subjects, particularly independence, work and finding work, and the pressure to be the breadwinner, the pressure to be able to do things like DIY. Also, the difficulties of talking about it. For example, expressing frustration or anger at sight loss is often dismissed as being negative. And that's something I've heard from many men who lost their sight over the years.
James Bird. Now, we realise that this instantly raises one major problem. Many blind women will surely be saying, well, that in today's world, many of those questions are about being in control and now apply equally to them. Well, our reason for continuing to explore this idea is because of perception, really, perceptions of masculinity and what constitutes being a real man, which go back into the history of human beings and are very deep-rooted. They're about the way men perceive themselves and the way they think other men and women, for that matter, perceive them. So does blindness and the limits it places upon us damage that sense of self and masculinity? Well, to discuss it, we've assembled three real men, all with varying degrees of visual impairment. Radio and television reporter and producer Kevin Mulhern, a teacher of visually impaired students, Sean Randall, and stand-up comedian Chris McCausland. And I want to start by asking you all for a quick summing up of your take on this question. Kevin, let me start with you. I mean, is it a runner?
It is, and it shocked me that this has never really been discussed before, because it is something that certainly has modified the things I have done in my life, but I hadn't really realised it till the question was posed. I'd had the thoughts but never pulled them together.
Sean Randall.
I totally agree with that. There are things that I haven't pursued in life that maybe I would have done if I could have, had more vision. Yeah, DIY is a really good example of that, because I'm just not really good at it, and I think maybe I could hammer nails straighter if I could see what I was about to hit. So I think that's a really good point.
But is it more than just a frustration, Sean? Because James' contention is that this really attacks at the root of your sense of being a man.
No, I think there are many frustrations in life, but I don't think my blindness has stopped me being in any way, really the man I want to be. Not really.
OK. Chris McCausland?
Well, I'd like to start by saying that I am very manly. I like football and Die Hard too. But aside from that, it is definitely a thing, and it's something that I do feel in me and experience, especially within the kind of family setting and being a dad. But it's not something I've ever really talked about, to be honest. So I will try to articulate as we go along.
Well, I want to stay with you, because you actually have, to some extent, tried to articulate it. You've taken a very precise family situation which you think brings out a lot of these issues, and you blogged about it. Just describe it to us.
I'm always a lot more comfortable when there's comedy in the situation to discuss it, you see. So, and with my young daughter, there's very often comedy around any corner.
How old is she?
She's 4 now. I mean, back when I wrote this, I think she was 2.5, and she was just kind of, talking and finding her words and things. We drove up to Liverpool, and whenever we drive on a long distance trip, everything's down to me wife. She has to do the driving for legal reasons. She has to find the food when we stop at services, take my daughter to the toilet, take me to the toilet. And a 4-hour journey turned into 7.5 hours, as is often the way with like the M6 and all that. And it was a nightmare. Sophie, my daughter, lost the will to live by the end. The next day, I sat down and I said to her, listen, I said, you were very good on the trip yesterday. It was a very long way. The roads were shut. You were a very good girl. Well done, Sophie. And she said, and well done, Mummy, for driving, and well done, Mummy, for finding my dinner. I was like, yeah, and well done, Mummy. And then she paused for a moment and she went, and well done, Daddy, for sitting down. So nothing like your own 4-year-old to remind you of your own inadequacies.
Right. I think that sums it up in a way. But I said earlier, didn't I, that nowadays a blind woman with a sighted partner would be in the same position. What's the difference?
The difference is they would be in a similar position, that they would feel maybe that they can't contribute and they can't help. But the expectation to help, I think, is stronger traditionally. If you're a man, if you're a bloke, you are the protector, the doer. And I know it might sound kind of, in this day and age, of gender equality, it might sound a little bit antiquated, but but you can't change how you feel you should be inside, if you know what I mean.
We discovered just before we started that Sean was 10 years younger than Chris. So have things changed in that decade, Sean?
I've got a slightly different situation in that my wife and I are both totally blind. We've got a daughter who is 7 in May, and I had all sorts of instances that mirror Chris completely. I was charging down the high street once. My daughter lost a shoe, and it was almost like the village idiot trying to reverse back up and find this shoe on the floor without dropping the child or losing the guide dog. It would have been great on You've Been Framed.
But is it easier in a sense?
Well, I think so. I mean, if I'm in the playground talking to the other parents, sighted parents, sighted children, one dad may talk about, the rugby and how wonderful Wales played at the weekend. Other dads may be talking about, the emotional well-being of his team and the fact that they need to go off for a retreat. And I don't think that's indicative of the fact that he's, you expect that sort of behaviour now. It's sort of natural. People have naturalised themselves to that.
And Kevin, you, as far as I know, don't have children. But, no. And I wonder what situations make you feel inadequate.
Well, can I just stay with the children thing for a minute? Because I think this is really interesting, because when I was leaving School for the Blind, Worcester, the whole genetic counselling thing had just started, which basically meant in my day, was you could pass it on, don't have children. Now, that is an enormous attack on masculinity before you begin. And I've always found that when you speak to people, they say to you, do you have children? And if I say no, they say, oh, that's probably just as well, because obviously I would not be a good parent. And the second thing is, I have on occasion said, well, yes, just to check it out. And the first thing they say is, can they see? And I think it is fine. We've got 3 people here, have all got children, all of whom can see. Now, I think it separates the men from the boys if you actually have what men want is a child in their own image. My God, go out and say you want to have a blind child. I don't think you get very far. I think the masculinity of it is because what we have been taught. I mean, in our day, we were taught we had to be massively independent, massively in control, much more than an ordinary fella. We had to be top dog. We're also representing all blind men. The stupidity of it was unbelievable.
And this is interesting from your point of view in a way, Chris, because I was born blind, but you lost your sight at 10, was it?
I lost it very gradually throughout my whole life, but most of the important stuff went late teens, early 20s. So I'm 40 now, so it's probably like 20 years since I'd say I was blind. I just see us both as different beasts, to be honest, Peter, because it's if you're born blind, no other way, especially with mobility and getting around, and you just do things a lot differently. I still lack confidence with a lot of kind of getting about. It doesn't feel like something I'm ever gonna get. Just the older I get, the less I care. I think that's that's my coping strategy.
That's the reassuring thing for people. But you would say that in a sense, because you grew up expecting to be a man in a way, does that make it harder that you've lost the ability to do these things?
I think it does, because you're still always grappling with the loss. If you haven't lost the sight, then you don't have that hanging over your head. Whereas, like, for example, when we were going to have my daughter, I was dreading being a dad, and it wasn't because I was fearing the responsibility or the lack of freedom. I was dreading being a bad dad who couldn't, not that I was going to walk out for a pint of milk and not come back, but they just couldn't do the dad things, couldn't be the manly dad and play football in the park.
Yeah.
Exactly. We just said it at the same time.
We did, because I was that,
exactly, yeah.
Well, perhaps people born blind aren't as different from you
maybe
as
there
we
you go.
think we are, because we did say that without any rehearsal.
But do you see yourself then as a sighted man in a blind man's body? Not to be funny. I mean, it is interesting, because although you see yourself like that, I think people who see us do not differentiate. We are the blindos. We are the blind men. That is who we are. And this idea, I mean, the only question you normally get, apart from making sure you haven't had children, is the question is, have you always been blind? Or is it better to have seen than not seen? You think, oh, go away. The fact is I think we did ourselves short when we were growing up. We were taught this terrific independence. And the other point is, when people then actually see us, I'm not sure they want to see overconfident blind men.
There are lots more points to make. I want to move to the very specific situations of being in work, because again, at a time when the issue of equality at work could hardly be more topical, especially in the BBC, I don't have to point out that this applies to both sexes. But again, that idea of the breadwinner is very deep-rooted for men, and not being able to fulfil that role brings its own problems. Let's just hear again from James Bird, the listener, who posed the original question, and he had some thoughts on this business of employment.
When I was 17, I was doing a work experience placement at an engineering company in the Midlands. One day, one of the labourers came up to me and started trying to wind me up, as they would have put it themselves, with traditional factory banter. It was nothing serious. I was expecting nothing else. But the next day, somebody had obviously told him that I was partially sighted, and he came back and he apologised profusely to me and wouldn't stop even when I said, it's all right, it doesn't matter. And that was far worse for me and far more upsetting than the banter was.
Kevin Mulhern, you've thought about this whole the business at work.
It goes even further than that. Some years ago, I interviewed a guy called Alan Wicker, who is a very famous documentary maker, and I'd interviewed him live on air, and I gave him a hell of a pasting, and he just shrank. And then afterwards, I was sort of washing my hands and saying, God, I did a good job there. And he'd gone out and said to the producer, how dare you give a blind man to interview me? How could I fight back?
Which, of course, is a very patronising thing.
Well, it's the same as
would feel patronising for you.
It was, but I think afterwards, when I thought about it, it was true. He didn't know how to fight back, because he thought, if I do anything, there are other people in the room, it would start the week. And it was like, if I go back at him, what are people going to think about me? And it never occurred to me that I'd done that to him.
One of the important things to say is for 3 out of 4 blind people of working age, they won't have jobs. And that is the point about the breadwinner. Sean, I think you've spent some time out of work yourself, I think.
Yes, very, very luckily, as it turns out, I was out of work when my daughter was born, and the first 2.5, 3 years of her life I spent looking for work while studying for my degree from home and helping bring her up. And looking back, I adore that time.
Did you adore it at the time, though?
No,
Did you adore
no,
the sense that you hadn't got a job and you had a child to support?
No, I was fighting. I was applying for jobs left, right and centre, and it was only through sheer dumb luck that I ended up working where I am now. I didn't apply for my current job initially. I didn't apply because I was working in the disability sector. I just applied for an admin job, any old admin job that was
anything would do.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I got, and that's where I started. I mean, growing up, my dad was a fitter. He fixed big mechanical vehicles. Very physical, hands-on job. I struggled to tighten up things with spanners. I'm not very DIY, but seeing that made me think, gosh, how much is there I can't do? I think, and it took me a while to realise, after school, that hang on, I've got qualifications, I've got abilities. And I can use those. But I think seeing him go off at 5 a.m. and come home at 9 exhausted and sweaty and full of oil both put me off that sort of line of work, but also made me think I would never be any good at it. And how much of that is because of my disability, how much is because of upbringing, I really can't say.
And Chris, you're the one who said at the beginning, I'm a real man. So is that a problem, do you think?
Well, first of all, my dad was a fireman, so in terms of employment, I'm never going to match up to a job like that. But I do stand-up comedy. I have sacrificed all of my social life, really, for an antisocial job.
Yeah. Let's talk a bit about the mating game, because again, I'm going to stay with you, Chris, because you've got some thoughts on this. The problem of playing what you see as the assertive role that is expected of you.
I've been with my wife now for 12 years, you know, so I haven't gone through the dating game in a while, but it was a pain. I remember at the time when I was kind of dating and me and my wife got together and we'd go out that first few times, and I remember thinking to myself, do you know what, I think that this would be a lot easier if I was a gay man and there was two blokes here and I could just make him go to the bar for me.
But you didn't feel you could do that with your wife?
There was never any refusal or awkwardness from her. It's all within yourself, and you just have to get more comfortable with yourself and with that,
Right.
don't you know what I mean?
Sean, you teach visually impaired boys in a co-ed situation. Do these issues come up about who takes the lead and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm only 30. So for many of my students who range between 11 and 19 in age, you know, so especially the upper end, they say to me, oh, Mr. Randall, you know, when you were doing it, how did it go? I do think they lack role models.
Kevin, the lack of role model thing, that's interesting, because I have to admit, having gone to a special school, I actually haven't found that. I think there are blind people that I can talk to about things.
I think that's true, although I do have to say, I don't think it is that easy for blind men to talk to blind men about this. And also, I've never discussed it with sighted men, to be honest. But I think when I went to Worcester, like you did, when I was in the lower sixth, I was an upper sixth and a fifth form coming up, those guys were some of the brightest people I'd ever met. And I wonder where they are now, because they certainly didn't get the jobs. And if you discussed anything like this when we were at school and you whined, you'd be called a chippy. You got a chip on your shoulder. It was an expression. I just think what Sean is saying, and Chris to a certain extent, I think maybe things have changed and maybe it is actually now easier. But I do remember thinking once that as a freelance, you're always getting a new boss. You know, like I've had 5 different bosses last year. All of them were women. I choose to work for women. And not consciously, it's just happened. And I think it's because it's less competitive. Because if you work for a fella, you are challenging their masculinity. You compete for a job with a sighted man and you get it. What does that say about his masculinity?
Let me try and pull this together with one final point. I wonder what effect the increasing emphasis on gender equality will actually have on this. Will it make things harder or easier? Sean?
I'd like to hope it would make things easier. I think those blind men who feel they have to be manly, you know, who enjoy their drinking and enjoy being a spectacle, if you like, are going to be sort of under increasing pressure, either not to let that slip away. You know, on the other hand, like I said, I know sighted men who are happy to talk about works of art and anything else. So
Yeah.
I think the more the barriers are loosened, as they are being, you know, progressively through the years, that's going to be better for us in the long term.
Because, Kevin, you could argue that as men and women swap roles much more comfortably, it takes a bit of the pressure off, as perhaps Sean is implying there. Do you think that's true?
I think the pressure's off for a different reason, and that is that still the dominant people in our society are white, able-bodied men. But why able-bodied men can get out of the argument now, even if a blind man gets a job, because they can say it's the equality rules. That's why a black person got the job and the Islamic person job. Or God forbid a woman got the job. It wasn't because there was anything wrong with me. It was because there are now rules that put other people in jobs. And that's made it easier for us, which is an odd side effect. But I've heard people say it. They give jobs to people for other reasons other than the fact that I, white, able-bodied man, am the best.
But, Chris, you could argue that blind men have until now had an excuse, a kind of cultural excuse, to be able to dodge things that they're less comfortable with, you know, cooking, childcare, taking their daughters to the loo. And that arguably this might make it more difficult because we haven't got that excuse anymore.
Well, believe it or not, I mean, like when you find yourself just doing the things in life that you are more able to do than the things you're not. And things like cooking is actually one of the things that I'm more able to do than a lot of the other stuff. So that's one of the things I take control of. And I've always done the cooking. Everyone's still alive, so that's a good sign. But it's one of them things, as gender equality increases, I don't think that for me, biologically, that's going to change how I feel. Maybe generations down the line it will, but for me personally, it's not going to change how I feel trying to fulfill the role as a man. But the older I get, the less I care.
Sean, final word. You're teaching the next generation. What do you think?
One of my big encouragements to students really is to sort of do what you can do. You know, a lot of the blind people that I, especially younger ones, have a lot done for them. And I tell them all quite a lot that it's going to be a bit of a shock when you leave the environment and go off into the real world. I don't think that really hits home until it happens. But as Chris says, play to your strengths, whatever they may be. You know, if you're good at nappies and baby grows, then good on you.
Well, much more to discuss on this, and we'd like your views, both from visually impaired men or women. And I think this is an occasion when we'd also be happy to hear from sighted listeners with their views. You can call our action line on 0800 044 044 for 24 hours after tonight's programme. Kevin Mulhern, Chris McCausland, Sean Randall, many thanks. From me, Peter Wight, and the team, goodbye.